The conference room at Anderson and Sons Manufacturing felt less like a hub of industry and more like a mausoleum. My father presided at the head of the polished table, his expression a theatrical mask of self-satisfaction as he prepared to divest himself of the failing family enterprise, bestowing its husk upon his perceived failure of a daughter. "Well, Emma," he intoned, shuffling papers with an exaggerated flourish, "as discussed, your sister Katherine will inherit the family estate, the vacation properties, and the entire investment portfolio. As for you—" He paused, letting the dramatic silence hang heavy in the air. "You get Anderson and Sons." My mother, perched beside him, her lips a thin, familiar line of disapproval perfected over decades, offered a tight-lipped smile. Across from me, my successful sister, Katherine, barely bothered to conceal her smirk. "A failing company for the failing daughter," Katherine murmured, just loud enough to be heard. "Seems fitting." I met their gazes with the same serene, professional composure I'd cultivated over the past 5 years as the anonymous CEO of Phoenix Industries, Anderson and Sons' most formidable competitor and the industry's undisputed rising star. "Just sign here," Dad prodded, pushing the documents towards me. "Though why you'd want a company hemorrhaging millions is beyond me. Should have gone to business school like your sister instead of finding yourself after college." What they conveniently ignored was that my 3 years of finding myself had been meticulously spent. I'd learned the manufacturing industry from the ground up, working incognito under different names in various companies, meticulously preparing to build something truly my own. "The handover meeting with Phoenix Industries is in 30 minutes, my father continued, oblivious. "They're buying our biggest contracts. It's the only way to keep the company afloat, even if it means dealing with that mysterious CEO who's been steadily eating our market share." I glanced at my watch, a subtle smile touching my lips. "Actually, Phoenix should be here any minute now." "You haven't even met them either?" Katherine interjected, her feigned disinterest cracking. "Nobody seems to know who runs Phoenix. They're so secretive." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Mio, my COO. "Team's in position. Ready when you are, boss." Before we proceed, I announced, rising from my seat, "I should mention that I've already reviewed these contracts with my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" My mother scoffed, her disdain palpable. "Since when do you have a lawyer?" Just then, the conference room door swung open. My executive team, 5 sharp, impeccably dressed individuals, filed in. Marcus led the procession, a sleek briefcase embossed with the Phoenix Industries logo in his hand. "Mrs. Anderson," Marcus said smoothly, his eyes fixed on my mother, "I believe you're sitting in my chair." The confusion that clouded my family's faces was priceless. My mother, conditioned by years of corporate deference, actually stood up automatically, making way for what she assumed was Phoenix's leadership. "I don't understand," my father frowned, his brow furrowed. "We're supposed to be meeting Phoenix's." "You are," I said, deliberately taking the seat my mother had vacated. "Phoenix Industries, founded 5 years ago by Emma Chin." "That's my married name, by the way." Another detail you never bothered to ask about. The signing pen clattered from my father's numb fingers. The silence that descended upon the room was absolute, punctuated only by the rapid thumping of their stunned hearts. Katherine's smirk had utterly vanished, replaced by open-mouthed, incredulous shock. My mother sagged back into her chair, clutching her designer handbag as if it were a life raft. "This is some kind of joke," my father finally stammered, his face contorted in disbelief. "Phoenix Industries is a $500 million company. You can't possibly." "Actually," Marcus interjected, unlatching his briefcase with a crisp click, "Phoenix Industries' current valuation is $780 million after our last funding round. And yes, Emma owns 67% of the shares." He proceeded to distribute folders containing Phoenix's financial statements, market analysis, and comprehensive acquisition proposals. My family stared at the documents as if they were written in an unknown hieroglyphic script. "While you were busy writing me off as a failure," I continued calmly, my voice steady and unwavering, "I was building the company that has been systematically outperforming Anderson and Sons in every single market sector." Katherine snatched a folder, her hands trembling slightly as she frantically flipped through the pages. The Morrison contract, the Johnson deal, the Asian expansion, that was all you. Every single one, I confirmed. Remember last Christmas, when you mocked me for missing family dinner because of work commitments? I was in Singapore closing a $50 million deal. My mother finally found her voice, though it was a shaky whisper. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive a used car. Because unlike some people, I replied, a hint of steel in my tone, I don't measure success by appearances. I invest in my company, my employees, and our growth. Marcus produced another set of documents. The real reason for this meeting. These are our terms for acquiring Anderson and Sons Manufacturing. My father's face transitioned from crimson to a furious purple. Acquiring? We're just here to sell some contracts. Dad, I leaned forward, my voice cutting through his indignation. Anderson and Sons is hemorrhaging money. Your market share has plummeted 60% in 5 years. The only contracts keeping you afloat are the ones I deliberately left alone until now. You did this on purpose? Katherine whispered, her eyes wide with dawning horror. You destroyed our family's company. No, I corrected her, my gaze unwavering. I built a better company. One that values innovation, treats its employees fairly, and doesn't rely on an outdated reputation. Anderson and Sons destroyed itself by refusing to adapt. I nodded to Marcus, who projected our presentation onto the conference room screen. Phoenix Industries is prepared to acquire Anderson and Sons for $30 million, significantly more than its current market value. All employees will be retained with improved benefits. The Anderson name will become a subsidiary brand. 30 million? My father scoffed, but I saw the frantic calculations behind his eyes. He knew it was more than he could ever hope to get elsewhere. The alternative, I continued, is watching Anderson and Sons continue its inevitable decline while Phoenix expands into your remaining market sectors. The choice is yours. My phone buzzed again, a text from David, my husband. How's it going? Need backup? I allowed myself a faint smile, typing back, all under control. See you at dinner. Katherine was still reeling from the revelation. All those times you came to family events in department store clothes, listening to us brag about our achievements. I was gathering market intelligence, I finished for her. It's amazing what people will say around someone they think is a failure. My mother abruptly straightened, her ingrained social conditioning kicking in. Well, darling, we always knew you had potential. And now you're so successful. Don't, I cut her off, my voice sharp. Don't pretend you believed in me all along. We all know that's not true. The next few moments would change everything. I pulled out one final folder, thicker than the rest, and placed it squarely on the table. This contains every email, every memo, and every conversation where you disparaged my abilities or questioned my worth. Our PR team has prepared 2 press releases about this acquisition. Version A is a simple business announcement. Version B includes the story of how the Anderson family treated their daughter, complete with documentation. My father's face drained of color. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I replied calmly. I've spent 5 years being underestimated by this family. I think the business world would find it fascinating to learn how the mighty Andersons never saw their biggest competitor hiding in plain sight. Marcus distributed copies of both press releases. Katherine skimmed them, her legal training kicking in. This would destroy our family's reputation. The same reputation you valued more than your own daughter? I countered. The one that made you think it was acceptable to mock me at every family gathering? My mother resorted to her usual tactic, guilt. We're your family, Emma. Despite everything family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let me tell you about family. David, my husband, whom none of you bothered to meet, believed in me when I had nothing but an idea. My executive team, who you just met, they're more family to me than you've been in the past decade. I opened my laptop, displaying Phoenix's organizational chart. See these names? Sarah in R&D, Mike in operations, Tom in sales. They're all former Anderson and Sons employees who left because you refused to recognize their talent. They're now executives at Phoenix, with equity stakes in the company. You poached our employees, my father growled. No, Dad, I corrected him. I gave opportunities to people you undervalued. Just like you undervalued me. Katherine, ever the pragmatist, was reviewing the acquisition terms. These are actually quite generous, she admitted, a hint of reluctant respect in her voice. Of course they are, I said. Despite everything, I'm not cruel. I'm offering fair value for the company, job security for the employees, and a chance for the Anderson name to survive as part of something successful. My phone buzzed again, this time with an alert from our trading department. Anderson and Sons stock had started dropping as rumors of the acquisition spread. You have 30 minutes to decide, I announced, standing up. My team will wait here. I have a lunch meeting with the governor about Phoenix's new tech training initiative. The governor? My mother gasped. Since when do you? Since I became one of the state's largest employers, I cut her off. Amazing what building a $780 million company will do for your social connections. As I gathered my things, Katherine spoke up. The inheritance papers, you never signed them. I don't need them, I replied. Keep Anderson and Sons. Keep the houses and the investments. I built something better. I walked to the door, pausing before leaving. Oh, and Mom, that tiny apartment you mocked? It's actually the penthouse of the building I own. And the used car is a custom Tesla with a 2-year waiting list. I just never felt the need to show off. The next few hours were a blur of activity. My parents, their options exhausted, signed the acquisition papers. Katherine, the star lawyer, couldn't find a single loophole to exploit. By evening, Phoenix Industries' acquisition of Anderson and Sons was official. I chose Press Release A, the simple business announcement. Not out of kindness, but because success was revenge enough. That night, at home with David, I finally allowed myself to process everything. How does it feel? He asked, pouring us both a glass of champagne. Honestly, not as satisfying as I thought it would be, I admitted. I spent years planning this moment, but... You realize you outgrew their approval a long time ago, he finished, a knowing smile on his face. Exactly. I smiled back, looking out over the glittering city from our penthouse. Phoenix is expanding into Europe next month. We're launching our tech education foundation. We're changing lives. That means more than any revenge. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Katherine, I never knew. I'm sorry. I left it unanswered. Some bridges, once irrevocably burned, aren't worth rebuilding. The next morning, I walked into Phoenix's headquarters, greeted by the team that had become my real family. On every screen, news headlines announced the acquisition. Analysts praised the strategic brilliance of Phoenix Industries' mysterious CEO. Marcus met me at my office door. The Anderson and Sons transition team is ready, he said. What's our first move? I smiled, pulling up our strategic plan. Let's show them how a failing daughter runs a company. Because sometimes, the most profound revenge isn't in a loud, dramatic fall, but in the quiet, undeniable echo of triumph that drowns out years of doubt. It's in building a legacy so powerful that those who once dismissed you become mere whispers in the long, resonant tale of your rise.